About 100,000 years ago, Stone Age man wandered around here, and it was joined to the mainland there. About 6,500 years BC, the ice caps melted, the sea level rose, and it became an island. About 5,000 years BC, farmers started to settle here, and about 800 years BC, the first invaders came. And that's why, ever since then, they've needed things like this. Archirundle Tower. Isn't it a great name? It had 4 18-pounder guns up there. You see, this place has always known about invasion. It didn't have a very good time during the Second World War, and it had worse times over the 1,000 years before that. It lies between England and France, although it's nearer to France. Normandy's only a few miles that way, and it is Jersey. What? Well, I don't know why one side of it's red and... Oh, it had 2 painters, and one of them was a Manchester United fan. I don't know, maybe it's so it can be seen from the sea or something. What are you doing? What's that? That's new. What's that? What? Wait. Wow! Fantastic! Look at that! Brilliant! These are all the places that we're going to go to. I love it! Hey, if it does that, could it do other special things like... Do you think it might get me a limousine? Yes, it worked! Well done! Where are we? Anyway, forget where we are. That doesn't matter. This matters. And if I just do this, and... Yep. Well, what are you waiting for? Get in the front. Have you got a grey cap? If you have, put it on. Right, that's it. What are you waiting for? Drive. Well, actually, I suppose we don't need a limo, do we? I mean, we can let our fingers do the walking, can't we, hey? Stop it. Anyway, a restaurant? This early in the programme? No. I think not. Thank you. We'll start with a little bit of church history. Now, if you look at a map of the island, there are saints all over it. 12 parishes, all with Saint this, Saint that, except for one in the middle, called Trinity. This is Saint Brelance. The Celts were here. They know that. They know there was a church. They know there was a settlement. They were here for quite some time. And then along came the Vikings. They weren't too bothered about Christianity, so they did a bit of R&Ping. You know, rape and pillaging. And anyway, things were destroyed. And then their very next generation, their cousins, if you like, the Normans, arrived, and they were back into Christianity. And this is one of the finest examples you'll ever come across of a Norman church. It is perfect in every way. I think it looks nice on the outside. You should see the inside. That is a Norman font. Over here, beautiful stained glass windows from the turn of the century, and the whole church, one glorious Norman arch. They're everywhere. And if you want to know how those were made, they would get great big pieces of wood in that sort of whalebone type shape, and they'd rest them on beams which went across the church, just about where that light begins. There's a ledge. The beams would go across, and then the wishbone shape wood on top of it, and then they would press local granite, all chipped up, mixed with sand and soil from the beach, and when it dried, they took away the wood, and you had yourself a Norman arch. And if you ever come to this church, look out for the limpets that are still stuck to the rock. It stood all this time, and against all weathers. But talking of weather, you should see the Fisherman's Chapel next door. Because experts are baffled about how in this 12th century chapel these 14th century paintings have managed to survive whatever the weather could throw at them. They're basically one great big cartoon strip because people couldn't read and write. So this is how you showed what happened and what was written in the Bible. Now, if you look here, they've actually drawn it onto a board. These are some of the different pictures that are on the roof. Here's King Herod up here, and there's one of his knights killing a baby. That's the slaughter of the innocents. And there's a mother defending her child. The Fisherman's Chapel. Extraordinary. The whole of the area has now been fully excavated, and they found Roman remains and also prehistoric remains that proved that this area was indeed occupied by fishermen who lived and worked here. Now, in the old days, a local rule on the island said that the church would be sanctuary, but if you did commit a crime, you had to leave the island as soon as you possibly could. So, a church that's close to the sea is a big bonus. They come running down that path, through this gate, down to the beach, and no doubt onto a waiting boat. Just a minute, just a minute. If you leave now, it'll be an awfully short programme. Ah, you see, I can keep you in your place now, just like that. Now then, hermits, Helia, kings and queens, and Sir Walter Raleigh. What? Grooville? What's that all about? 12 parishes, all with Saint this, Saint that, except for one in the middle, called Trinity. Do you know, I'm sure I've got deja vu or something. I've done that already, haven't I? What? I didn't do it right. You've got an error chip. What, so, what was wrong with Grooville then? It's another parish that isn't a saint. So there are two. You're not going to need me after very long with all these chips, aren't you? Chips with flipping everything. Listen, forget... No. Stop it. Stop it. History and heritage, that's what we're all about. Hermits are people who live solitary lives. I'm down here, with very few creature comforts. A bit like you, really. Anyway, Helia was one such hermit who was sent to Jersey in 540 AD, and he chose the most remote part of the island to make his home. That was his bed in there. It's a kind of natural cave come bed that's been cut out of the rock. Anyway, he lived there for 15 years, devoting his life to God and almost starving every single day. And then on the 16th of July, 555, pirates landed and they killed him. So they built this chapel over his bed, and they made him Saint Helia. And he gave his name to the whole of this town and area. And 1,000 years after the hermit, yes, I'm down here again, along came the soldiers. George VI in 1550 put up the first little bit of fortification here, and then Queen Elizabeth with her designer Paul Ivy, who was a bit of a master craftsman when it came to building castles, put up this fortification, although this bit was built by the Germans in the Second World War. It's a fire tower, and you really shouldn't be up there, so do you want to get down? Anyway, during Elizabeth's reign, the governor here was our old mate, Sir Walter Raleigh. In fact, he saved another castle, which we're going to see, because he wrote to the Queen and he said, it were a pity to cast it down. So she didn't. And it's saved to this day. Do you know that in 1603, Walt was called back from here by James II to the Tower of London? And he was beheaded. But did you know that his wife carried his head in a handbag for the rest of her life and kissed it goodnight every night? His son put it back with his body later. Anyway, the tide's coming in. How are we going to get back? A what? A duck? What's a duck when it's at home? A utility vehicle that the Americans developed during the war, and it goes on land and water. Hey, that's clever. That means the driver must be a bus driver and the skipper of a boat as well. That's very clever. What? How do you know when the tide's coming in? Because it's only halfway up the ducks. That's really funny, yeah. You must be the life and soul of your parties. If I come to think of it, you must be the only person at your parties. Whoa, 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 look, I was only joking. Joking. I know you don't get TV dinners for one. You get the family size, don't you, and scoff the lot yourself. I know. It's life, Jim, but not as we know it. Talking of which, beam me down. No, you've got that wrong. You have to... That's it. Yeah, right. Now, look at that mound. How would you like to build that? Well, in a moment, I'll tell you exactly who did. But first of all, let's talk about the chapel that's on the top of it. This is Hoogby. Hoog means burial ground, and B, they think, comes from Lord Hamby of Normandy, who owned this land. And legend has it that he came over here with his servant to slay a dragon. All that business, yes. Anyway, he did, but then the servant killed him and went back to his wife and said, "The dragon killed your husband, but I then killed the dragon. And his dying wish was that you should marry me." Well, he talked in his sleep and gave the game away, so they strung him up. They came back and built this chapel as a mark of respect and a kind of apology to the Lord. Anyway, the really interesting stuff is 13 metres that way. This is a Neolithic passage too. Come on inside. 3,000 years BC this was built. It's incredibly impressive and long passage, because that's exactly what it is, built underground with little side chambers off where noble men and women of that time were laid to rest. Huge, great standing pieces of rock that form the walls of the passage, with enormous slabs placed on top, and then 13 metres of soil on top of that. But don't worry, because it's been here for about 5,000 years, so I think we're fairly safe. These were Iberian people, Spanish, travelled up through northern France, paddled across here in little canoes and started to farm the land. What on earth? This is old. Where are we now? Your bedroom. No, we are not. I've seen your bedroom. It's nothing like this. I mean, what you do, you're suggesting this thing can take you back in time or something? Oh, yeah. Yeah, right, I'll play along. Go on, then. Right. Stone stairs. Now, you don't see those very often. So we are talking very old. Log store? So, farming, perhaps? Grains? Definitely farming. 16th century? Yeah, okay, right, fine. Mid-16th century, plague around, things like that. And,
fish bed, soaking in juicy milk, juicy cream.
What, your mother? All right. And what? Well, I think that's where they used to feed the swine. They'd shove the food down there, wouldn't they? Yeah, well, talking of feeding the swine. Okay. Time to feed the swine. We'll get down to it once and for all. Now, this is traditional. Moule in cider. Look at that. Mussels. Moule is French for mussels, of course. Not far from France, and the island and shellfish. They're like that, matey. Anyway, Jersey cider, saffron and parsley it's served with. And you've got crab cakes. Not fish cakes, but crab cakes. Local crab, and it's done with a light chilli sauce with a bit of salad in the middle. And I've noticed that there's only one portion each, so I better taste it, and you help yourself to bread. Okay. Back in a bit. Put it down, you know you're driving. What are we doing back here at Hampton anyway? I mean, it's a cider mill. This is where they would have put the cider. A horse would have pulled that stone round, would have crushed it, and then you Get your foot off. You'd scoop up all the mess, the pulp, throw it into there, and then it'd be pressed. They used to produce about 30,000 barrels a year, and about 20,000 of them were drunk on the island. Stop it. I told you you're driving. But, of course, Jersey is famous for all sorts of things. Not Catherine Cookson. Knitting. Do you know, even as long ago as 400 years, they had a right old trade exporting clothes to England and France. Jerseys. Oh, yeah, this will be interesting. Go on, then. Let me see you do that one-handed. Hey? Anyway, don't you go clattering those needles, because there's a law around here that says that men can't knit during daylight hours. Hey? Who is your friend? Hey, let me have a look at that. Now, I said we'd mention money. Jersey pound, that. And you get all the notes done in Jersey notes. And do you know that that can buy you an entry into the Jersey lottery? So I'll do it for you. Who is your friend? The Prime Minister's daughter. Now I know you're lying, because there isn't a Prime Minister, there isn't a cabinet, there isn't even a political party. No cons, no labs, no Lib Dens, no raving loonies. Well, yeah, actually, you can adopt a snail, and they do make walking sticks out of cabbage stalks. They've been doing it for 200 years. And if your tree dangles within 8 foot of a footpath or 12 foot of a road, you get fined 50 pence. I know. Hurry up with that. I'm cold, and I've got some history to do. Now this is a good bit, because on this very hill on which I am standing, there has been a fort since the Iron Ages, and this one's been here since the late 1100s. Gorey Castle. And it is a bit kind of gory. What's the matter? Oh, yeah, Mount Orgoy. It's got 2 names. You see, Henry V's brother, the Duke of Clarence, remember him? Fell in the Malmsey wine, drowned in it? Yep. Well, he came here and he said Mount Orgoy, which means Mount of Pride. So, it's got 2 names ever since the 15th century. And it's got 5 inner walls, so it's very difficult to get into. Unless, of course, you go like that. They've got their own flag, you know. And they've got their own currency. I'll show you that later. So, we've been through the first wall, then the second, then the third, then the fourth, and... Well, you're right. We haven't quite got through the 5th. You would have to be really persistent to get to this point. You'd have had to go over 2 drawbridges within the castle itself. And this is the final gate, leading into the keep and the inner sanctum. And there's more. Just a minute. How come when you go like that, you get to be higher up than me? Anyway, those bits are from the Second World War, but apart from them, just about everything else is exactly as it was. And one thing most certainly is the same, and that's the view. Same as it was in the 12th century. No, not through that. Down here. Look at that. Now that is truly special. In fact, so special, I think you should do your magic business and go and get some pictures. Again. Look, what is this sudden fascination you have with dairy life on Jersey? Yeah, I know they have their own cows. Jersey cows, very famous. Do I want to hear an old yoke? Yeah, it's really funny that. Look, let's get this done. Jersey cows, rich milk, finish. Next. Have you found it yet? Well, keep looking. This is the cream of Jersey. Or, as was. Now, have you noticed that a lot of these names are in French? In fact, all the street names are in French. In fact, they even speak Jersey French. But it's not surprising, because we're so close to Normandy. Anyway, we're looking for a grave of a woman who was born here in St. Saviour's Church. She was the daughter of the rector. She married a man called Langtry, who was very wealthy. She was outrageous, wore really, wicked clothes, became the mistress of the Prince of Wales, went to America, had a town named after her there. Do you know which one? No, not New Jersey. That's named after Jersey. Langtree in Texas. And there she is. Film actress, bought the Imperial Theatre in London, built a villa in Monaco, where she died, and then she was brought back to here. She was actually called Le Breton, Lily Langtree. She was born in that very church. "11 years later, and 33.5 metres down, the Germans were here. They had occupied Jersey, and Hitler said that his soldiers should make themselves safe against attack from the English. So they set about digging tunnels. They didn't actually do the digging. They brought in prisoners from all over Europe, Poles, Italians, French, Russians, whoever, and they worked here on meagre rations, digging away at the hard rock under Jersey. This one tunnel alone, which is known as the Underground Hospital, had 43,900 tons of solid rock dug out of it. They dug a total of 23 tunnels that we know of. Some say there are 25. And the idea was to use them to protect soldiers, although this one, in its latter days, was set up as a hospital because they feared invasion from the English. That invasion never came, and after the surrender, it stayed in its present immaculate condition. And this is connected to it, the occupation tapestry. This is beautiful in St Helier, and it's on the new dock. Have a look. 12 2-metre sections. Each of the sections done by a different parish all the way round the island, all designed by the one artist, but the actual hard work being done by the people of the different parishes. And it tells the story of the occupation on the island, right the way through to Liberation Day. And you can see Winston Churchill here and the people gathering outside the hotel to hear that they'd been liberated. Don't do that. Don't do that. Listen. I've had enough of your chip. It's been more trouble. Give it here. It's been more trouble than it's been worth. And if I can... Thank you. I can't think of another. You were planning this all along, weren't you? You knew this was my job. All those visits to that agricultural museum. How long does it take to milk a cow, anyway? 10 minutes. How many have they got? 52? That's 520 minutes. What? Why has a milking stool only got 3 legs? Because the cow's got the udder. Yeah, that's really funny. Anyway, I can't... Nothing's happening. I can't do this. It's going to take forever. Where are we staying, anyway? What? Ask them. What?
Connais-tu la fille Renaud, Mrs. Renaud?
Mrs. Renard.
Mais qui est là? Chez ses vocailles. Mais tu sais, mais
Tu comprends pas ton
I think they're speaking Jersey French.
C'est des vocs.
tu comprends pas de mes traits.
Oh,
Come on,
right.
avec les gamins.
Get on with it, I think she means. Yeah.
Tu travailles là toujours, mon pauvre.
I know, absolutely. I'm trying. Don't leave me. Don't leave me.
Tu comprends pas ton chef, c'est des vocs.
Don't know what they're on about.
Je vais pas te dire.
C'est des trucs de chien,
Avec un convoi et très avec les gamins.